Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now June 3rd of 2021, and ever since the very end of The Mandalorian Season 2 finale, a lot of Star Wars fans around the world have been very much intrigued about the future of the Star Wars franchise by Disney, Lucasfilm, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and others out there that's really going to steer things in the right direction. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel for future Star Wars content. Also, make sure to check me out at Mike01 on Twitter. Now, moving ahead beyond all of this, we do know that Star Wars is, of course, an ever-evolving franchise as we speak. They are currently working on shows like The Acolyte, shows like, of course, The Mandalorian, the Ahsoka series, Kenobi, Andor, and more. By the way, the Acolyte TV series is something that a lot of fans are very much up in arms over because of how it really does involve Kathleen Kennedy's vision of Star Wars and Leslie Headland's as well. So, moving beyond all of this, we do know that throughout the past couple of months, there's been a lot of development based on what happened with actress Gina Carano. You know, back in February when she was fired by Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, a lot of fans were leaving the franchise, canceling their Disney Plus subscription. I mean, we got more evidence of that just a couple of days ago when Disney unveiled their revenue that they lost and their subscription loss on the Disney Plus platform and more. However, when we go ahead and take a further look, a deeper look into exactly what Lucasfilm is trying to do right now, it obviously speaks volumes because it seems to be that they really are trying to go back down to the roots of Star Wars legends. This is all made by, of course, Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, trying to bring back legends into the mix, and that's exactly what they're going to deliver. So, what's really intriguing all has to do with Kathleen Kennedy and Gina Carano, and exactly what Kathleen Kennedy had to recently say about how the entire situation was handled back in February because of what Gina Carano had posted on Twitter. Now, specifically, given that Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy is still actively working on shows like the Acolyte series with Leslie Headland, where both Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are getting ready to develop shows like Ahsoka, Mando Season 3 and 4, as well as a host of other Star Wars TV shows for Disney+. Now, further it's described that Disney CEO Bob Chapek is also currently making some drastic changes over at Lucasfilm. However, in a recent interview with Kathleen Kennedy when she was being questioned about the Acolyte series and the future of Star Wars, Kennedy was eventually questioned about Gina Carano and her firing, to where Kathleen Kennedy went on to apologize about the entire situation, stating that it was never my intention to hurt anybody like Gina. The last thing I want to do is wreck somebody's life personally, and for those who believe that was the case, I am very sorry about how the entire thing happened, and that her firing over social media sites was truly not my intention at all. Kennedy went on to state that yes, Gina was warned to not post those things on Twitter several times by Disney, and we kept trying to warn her about the consequences which were ignored. So we had to take action to save the face of our company. Kennedy went on to explain that I deeply apologize for how the entire thing got out online, and that there was an original true intention to get this communicated with Gina in private over at Lucasfilm, which unfortunately it just did not happen like that, and somehow got out before I pulled her in to give her the actual news. Aside from all of this behind the scenes, it's described, however, that Kathleen Kennedy does not want Gina Carano to be rehired, as Jon and Dave negotiated with Disney to get her back just some days ago, which makes her apology seem quite inauthentic to the Star Wars fandom, to say the least. Now, when we go ahead and look at Kathleen Kennedy, this once again speaks volumes of how inauthentic she can be. This is her apology, and it may sound like an apology to the fandom, to some of the fandom. I don't buy it at all one bit. I believe that this is her trying to save her own image, trying to save her legacy, trying to save how she is viewed in Hollywood and how she acts as a professional. This just comes off as very inauthentic because we also know that she doesn't want Gina Carano back. She doesn't want her back, period, even if Disney agrees with bringing her back, which, by the way, was negotiated between Disney's higher-ups, of course, Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and others out there. So, my thing is this. When we go ahead and see exactly what's been happening in the past couple of months now, Kathleen Kennedy barely spoke about Gina Carano in the very beginning. If she truly was deeply sorry about the entire scenario, she would have came right out immediately to save her image. Immediately. She was scared. She was hiding from cameras and from interviews. She refused to even talk about the Gina situation until months later. Now, if I were in her shoes, if I made such a drastic mistake like that, I would have came out the day after I learned about Gina Carano, learning about getting fired on social media, as opposed to pulling her in the office. I would have outright somehow gotten myself involved in an interview if I were Kathleen Kennedy to make things more clear. Clearly, she felt that she didn't need to do that because, well, she was trying to create this image that Gina Carano deserved to be fired that way. And I don't know about you guys, but when we go ahead and examine Lucasfilm as a company, the best way that I can really describe them, and I know I've said this several times, they act like people in middle school or high school, to say the least. A middle school is probably more accurate. That's how it comes off as. It's very much like that, and it just does not look good. We see it on Twitter firsthand with Lucasfilm employees. We've seen this with Freddie Prinze Jr. as a great example, by the way, saying how he thought it was really funny that Gina Carano was fired and that it was actually quite amusing. I mean, if I were Freddie Prinze Jr., I would just keep my mouth shut and not say a thing. So, looking at all of this, obviously, the Acolyte series, I believe it's still going to fail. They're having a lot of setbacks as we speak. Kathleen Kennedy's having a lot of trouble with this TV show. I still stand by my opinion that, yes, unfortunately, this show is going to be developed. It is going to come out. It's not going to be canceled. I think that's unlikely, sadly, but I believe 100% that it's going to have a lot of delays and a lot of changes throughout the next couple of months, given that there's so many setbacks and firings and rewrites and all these crazy things going back and forth. The other thing I think is very important that fans absolutely need to know is that Gina Carano still needs to decide on whether or not she would even come back to Star Wars, once the offer is finalized by this September, the negotiation between John, Dave, and the higher-ups over at Disney. So, like I've said before in the past, I think that obviously things are looking up for Star Wars regardless. I don't take this as an authentic apology by Kathleen Kennedy. It just doesn't seem real to me. It seems very fake, seems very forced, as if she's trying to do some kind of damage control. That's the best way that I could really describe it. So I would love to hear each and every one of you below in the comments. What do you think about Kathleen Kennedy's apology? Is this authentic? Is it not authentic? Would love to hear your comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.